Hello and welcome to Onward Lebanon, a television show about Lebanon City Schools, our people, our programs, and our students. I'm Isaac Seevers, Superintendent of Lebanon City Schools, and I want to welcome you into this month's session. We're going to be talking about a program that we've implemented at Lebanon High School. Throughout the past year, we've been focusing on student mental health and behaviors, looking at the whole child. What are some things that we can do and we're intentionally doing as a district to address this aspect of our student lives? We've talked about behavioral leadership and how that program is being implemented to impact student and classroom behaviors, also building cultures. We've talked about the impacts and the effects of social media and cell phones on students and looking at the mental health crisis. And this month, I want to talk about something we're trying to do proactively at Lebanon High School to begin to look at an aspect of athletics and competition in a way that we don't normally talk about it. As a way of introducing this topic, I want to talk about a conversation I had last spring with Dr. Bart Girdwood of Girdwood Orthodontics. We were sitting and talking about our students, what we're seeing in the kids' lives in our community, and just really having a great conversation about the stress that kids are feeling, the impact that just social pressures are having on them. And he asked me if I've ever heard of a program called the Players Box. Dr. Girdwood had been involved with this through his church. And had seen it implemented in Springboro schools and Centerville schools, and said, I think that Lebanon schools could benefit from this. And he wanted to find a way to partner with us. So we got us in contact with the people at Players Box, and we began to look at the whole child and have a discussion about how do we train kids for the mental side of competition. We spent a lot of time talking with them about physical fitness, preparing them, whether it's athletically for the competition in terms of skill development, physical development, but how much time are we spending on the mental development and what it takes to be a competitor. And we met with the people from Players Box and had a great conversation. And so first, before we even get started, I want to say thanks to Dr. Girdwood in bringing this program to us and sponsoring it for us in this pilot year at Lebanon City Schools, and really saying that he wanted to partner with us in helping our students. So thank you to him for that. Today I'm joined by Assistant Athletic Director Caelen King and girls basketball coach and junior high teacher Josh Chasteen. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to talk a little bit about what this looks like for our students. And so Mr. King, I want to start with you. So one of the ways we met, and Caelen, when we first met with the Players Box, we brainstormed some ways that we could get this introduced to our student athletes at the high school. What are some programs that could benefit from it? And so would you talk us through just that original discussion we had and how we wanted to introduce this to the students at Lebanon High School?
Yeah, so at Lebanon High School, we have a captain's council, which is made up of underclassmen and a senior from each of our programs. So we thought it would be good to bring in the Players Box to the Captain's Council to kind of integrate it into all of our programs. We have meetings once a month, and in those meetings we usually discuss what programs we're going to do within the community, with our youth programs and school spirit as a whole. So we have a little bit of time to learn about the mental side of things. And with Players Box, one thing that I really enjoy, and I think our students are enjoying, are the ability to kind of learn about what kind of leaders they are, how they take coaching, how they take criticism from teammates. So they kind of learn a little bit about their personality. And the cool thing about that is it goes beyond athletics. They're learning maybe at home why their parents tell them to do things a certain way.
Yeah, or how they respond to their parents telling them how to do things, right?
Exactly, and they're kind of seeing it come together, like, oh, because I don't like being talked to this way, or I don't really receive criticism well when it's presented this way, but someone else might, because this is just the way they're wired. So I think it's cool to kind of see the integration between athletics and just their everyday life, learning about a growth mindset, learning how they can constantly change. It's been cool to see. And Coach Chasteen has a few girls in our program, which is cool because they're kind of ahead of us. So they're leading their groups when they go and talk in smaller groups.
Yeah, so one of the things we talked about is we have several programs at the high school, one of them being Captain's Council, where we have a lot of activities and programs for them. But one of the things that you said in that original discussion was, like, we wanted to work on some development as well, right? And so I think in kind of looking at where did Players Box come from, one of the things that struck me was, the founder of this, Charlie McMahon, was he was looking at it. He had 2 children that were athletes, both of them pretty high performers, and they got to a place where the pressure and how they were being coached and how they was talking about athletics at home really began to impact their mental health or their desire to continue in the sport. And he said, I spent so much time talking about like the basketball side of this or the dancing that I forgot that there's this whole aspect of the kid that we needed to focus on. And so it was sort of a reset for him of where did we go wrong and how can we begin to have these conversations. So I think the idea of taking it to our captains first and then being able to implement it in their programs is a great way for us to introduce it. The other way that we're utilizing it is through our Warrior Built program. And so Warrior Built is a weightlifting and strength and conditioning class, but Coach Hensley is utilizing this program for 6 weeks with them as well. So that's another thing, it's 6 weeks. You guys, where are you at in the program with?
So we just completed our fourth session last week. We're meeting monthly, and so we'll be finished at the end of March.
Okay. One question for you is, you're a part of these discussions. You see kids. Is there any sort of impact that you've seen directly, either an aha moment where some kid was like, man, that explains so much, or some benefits you're beginning to see in the leaders?
Yeah, I think during the sessions, it's cool to just see them engaged, just to see there's obviously no cell phones around, there's no schoolwork being done on the side. They're strictly engaged with the conversation and learning about themselves. So within those sessions, they also break off into little groups that with people who are similar to them, and they kind of talk it out, and it's just cool to see like them talk to other people and see that these people think just like I do, and then they go in different subgroups with people who have different personality traits, and they kind of can understand, especially when they have a teammate in that session, that maybe they butt heads with in a prior time. They kind of understand like this is why what I said to them came off a different way. But I would say that's the biggest impact, really, I think, is for them to realize what kind of teammate they are being, intentionally or unintentionally. Okay.
I think putting words to what they're feeling or the actions that they're seeing is really helpful, right? Like, and they're high school kids, right? They're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And so putting some word and some meaning to like what's going on is really impactful. As a parent of 2 kids have gone through this program, seeing their transformation or being a part of the conversations with them has been really helpful for me as a parent. And so, which takes me over to Coach Chasteen, right? Girls basketball coach. Your program is utilizing this not just through Players Council. So what are some benefits and things that you're seeing through the implementation of this over the last 6 weeks in your program? Just talk to us about what's going.
Yeah, I mean, I love Players Box. And I think that, as a coach, one of the reasons why you coach is not just to help girls become better basketball players, but ultimately you want to use basketball as an opportunity for them to become better people and better students and better spouses and employees down the road and parents and whatever. And I think Players Box is been huge in this process, and not just helping them become better basketball players, but also it's going to have a lasting impact for the rest of their life. It's been a lot of fun to see the girls work with the crew from Players Box. One of the first sessions they do is they sit down with the team and like, all right, what are your goals for the season? You come up with one big goal, and then it's like, all right, what are some things that we need to work on, some smaller goals to meet this one big goal that we have for the season? Okay, and then what are little things we need to do to meet these smaller goals? And so just watching the girls work together to figure that out was a lot of fun. Mr. King mentioned the personality testing that they do at one of the early sessions. That was, just amazing to see that. Just the girls, I think that the most impactful thing for the girls to to hear through that is like, okay, what type of personality am I? And they like kind of all had these aha moments like, yeah, this is me. This is why I do this. This is why I do this under pressure. And what are the good parts of this, having this personality, and what are some of the weaknesses? And so making the girls aware of that was important. But I think it was also important for the team to see their teammates' personalities. And like Mr. King mentioned, like it helps them understand how to better connect with their teammates, you know? So the personality test that we do, and I'm sure many of the viewers are familiar with this or have gone through it before. There's like a lion and an otter and a beaver and a golden retriever. And, you know, if you're a lion or you're a golden retriever, that's great. But maturity comes when you have somebody on your team that's an otter and you talk to them like an otter, you know? And so I think that it's really changed the way that our girls talk to each other. It's at least opened their eyes that not everybody's the same. It's impacted the way that I coach the individual player as well, because not everybody takes the same type of coaching the same way. And one of the things as we talk about personalities and we learn about that, it was like, okay, what do you need to hear from your teammates when you're struggling? And what do you need to hear from your coaches when you're struggling? And I think that session alone has had one of the greatest impacts on our team this season.
I think having a kid who went through those sessions, one of the things, now my child has never been unable to talk about things like this. It's just a strength for her. But the ability to advocate specifically for like, I need this, right? Or I don't respond well to that. And to put words to what she was feeling was extremely beneficial. And she came home from that session saying like, this person was a lion and it now makes a lot more sense, right? And so I think it was really helpful. One of the things I jotted some notes down from their materials. We're talking about personality types a lot right now, but their belief is that personality type affects pressure, right? How do they relate to pressure? And so are they person, you know, they talk about hype factor in there a little bit, like, and what is it in terms of in pressure moments, and then also knowing like, do I need to be somebody who's pretty, you know, do I need to be pumped up, right? We all have those different teammates that are like, they're like listening to, you know, hard music in the corner and they're getting all excited. We also have the ones that are sitting quietly, just running through things in their head, right? And both of those things, they figured out what they need to be successful at their best. And so their belief is that personality types affect pressure, how they relate to pressure. They also talk about learning styles, and how that affects practice. And so, you know, have you gotten to that point in time where like how you teach things to different kids, or you talk about coaching kids differently? Is that a way that you're doing it, or is it more in the feedback that you're giving?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the above. You know, I think it was eye-opening to me. Like, you know, as I'm sitting there in the room, I'm just fascinated by all this stuff, you know, and so I'm jotting down, okay, this person, this is the way that they want to be coached, or the way that they, you know, what they want to hear from their coaches, or this is what they want to hear from their teammates. And so it definitely has made me think about the way that I interact with each player, for sure.
Yeah. And I think also the other thing is like they talk about the ability level, right? The ability level affects purpose. Some kids are choosing athletics for a variety of different reasons, right? Like they know, right, they're not going to be a Division I prospect, but they are in it for different reasons. And so how can we speak those things to them that say like, I want to be here to be a good teammate. I want to be here to play my role and to be a part of that. And then the last thing, the yes factor affects positivity. What's the performer's attitude towards their self? So is there anything in terms of, have you guys covered yes factor yet? What does that mean? That's one I'm not sure of because I didn't go through the course. Is that, you haven't gotten there yet?
No.
Is that something
I think we're covering that one tomorrow.
You're covering that one tomorrow. So I'm excited to hear what yes factor is. And then the other part of it is just, you know, thinking through their purpose. And I think we can get kids to understand that, right? So when struggles come, right, how are we going to respond to adversity, right? How are we going to respond to difficult times as well? And so it's really one of those things that as we look at the whole child, right? You talked about the purpose of athletics. The reason schools have extracurricular activities is to reinforce the things that that school is about, right? To help train and mature them. And this is one of those aspects that like we spend a lot of time learning basketball, right? Fundamentals of it. I'm fascinated by it. I think if I was participating in this in the room, I'd be the guy in the corner taking notes. I love to hear that you're, applying it to kids. Is there any thought about expansion of this, or any coaches that have come along and said like, what's going on? We want to have a part of that.
Yeah, after our second session, I had a meeting with all of our head coaches just in the auditorium during a PD day, just letting them know what we're doing, how we're working with them. And they came in, spoke to every coach, and that's kind of where, I don't know if that's where you heard about it from or if you were kind of committed before that, but just because it only benefits everybody. So we're using this year as kind of a trial to get everybody in every program familiar with it, and hopefully those leaders will go back to their coaches, let them know what they've learned, how it's helped them, and I'm sure there will be some more teams adding it to their resume next year.
Yeah, my daughter appreciates the people that are coming in from Players Box. So like this is a 6-week program, right? They have a specific curriculum. I don't know if there's anything to add there, Coach Chasteen, about it, but like this is done by outside people coming in to work with our kids. Has that been a benefit, you think, in terms of your program, of somebody, a voice other than you, offering this type of instruction or feedback?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they hear my voice every day, and so to have another voice speaking the things that we're trying to coach and communicate anyway has been super beneficial. The thing that I really love about it, though, is they help the girls get to the point like where they come to the realization of a lot of this stuff on their own. Like I could say it, they could say it, but they're helping the girls get there on their own. And so for them to be able to discover a lot of these principles, I think has been the best way for them to learn it.
That's awesome. Anything else to add about either the program itself or your program implementation before we go?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of, we've seen the impact of it in a number of ways. And one thing in particular, I always go back to when we talk about the hype number, our schedule is really tough. We're playing a lot of the top teams in the state. And so there's a lot of pressure that goes with this. And this program is about dealing with pressure. And there was one game in particular about a month ago that we were up about 6 to 10 points throughout the entire game. And we made a few mistakes at the end of the game. We had a really bad last 30 seconds. We had a turnover, and the team ends up burying a 3 at the buzzer to send it to overtime. And the girls came over to the bench, and they were just really even-keeled. I think there was an opportunity for everyone to point fingers at each other and why'd you do this, and this is why we're here. But they were just came over. They were coachable. They listened to what we said, and they went out and took care of business in overtime. And I attribute a lot of that to what they learned and took away from Players Box.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate your guys' time today. I appreciate you stopping by to talk to me about this program. I think it's an excellent example of how we're trying to build community amongst our team, right? We have this district mission of building community, and it's really hard sometimes to look at this and see like, how does that play out in an everyday life, right? We like to talk about building community in our classrooms and our sports teams. This is one of those examples where we begin to look at not only ourselves, but how do I interact with the team around me, right? Where do I fit in? And we can take some lessons learned from a competition on a Tuesday night, right? And say like, that's something that's a lesson I learned that I want to apply later in my life, and to put some words and some value and meaning to it. I'm very thankful for Dr. Girdwood and him bringing this to us. I actually think when I talked to you about it, it's something you had heard about previously because of some coaches that that have implemented it before in other districts. And so when he brought this to us, I was like, we're in, right? Mm-hmm. What do we got to do? And so again, I want to say thank you to him. I want to say thanks to the folks at Players Box for being willing to say this is an area of development with our kids that they want to get involved with, right? It started in a church program. This is definitely at this point in time, not a ministry organization, but they're saying a lot of our kids are committed to participating in these sports and activities, whether it's dance, theater, all of these things. and there's a lot of pressure that goes along with it. So how do we help kids deal with the pressure to know and advocate for themselves? And so I'm just thankful that we have this opportunity. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for those of you out there who are watching this month. I hope that you appreciated this session. If you want to learn more about Players Box, reach out to me. We'll get you some more information. We're also going to talk to some students in the future about maybe some lessons they've learned through the program and see how it can be transferred into their lives on a daily basis. Thank you very much for your time today. Onward, Lebanon.